All right. We'll call to order the Newport Beach Planning Commission November 9th meeting at 6 o'clock. And our first item of business is Pledge of Allegiance. Commissioner Celine, will you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please?
Rise to the pledge. Yeah.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Staff, roll call, please.
All commissioners are present with the exception of Chair Elmore, who is excused this evening.
Thank you. All right, next item is we'll take public comments on items that are not on the agenda, but that are generally within the purview of the Planning Commission. If you'd like to speak, please keep your comments to 3 minutes or less. Do we have any public comments on non-agenda items? Okay, seeing none. Staff, do we have any requests for continuances?
Chair Rosine, there are no requests for continuances.
All right. Moving on to consent items. Item number 1, minutes of the October 19th, 2023 meeting. Do we have any comments on the minutes?
Just real quick on, I was going through the minutes here really quick. I just wanted to make something clear. I apologize. Let me get to it really quick. Almost there, sorry. What? Okay, yeah. For item number 3, it said, except for Commissioner Lowry, the commission disclosed ex parte communication with landowners in the multi-zones. I might have missed that, but I just want to let everyone know that I had no ex parte communications with anybody that for that item. So just wanted to clarify that now. I don't know if we could add it to it or as long as I just wanted to make the note here.
We can certainly add that as an amendment to the minutes.
So just stating here, I had no communications for that item.
Okay. So in addition to Commissioner Lowry's addition to the minutes, would anyone like to make a motion?
A motion to approve the minutes with Mr. Mosier's comments.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Call for a vote. Oh, yeah.
The motion carries 5-0 with Vice Chair Rosine abstaining.
All right, next item, the Dawson Residence CDP modification permit and staff approval, which is PA 2022-0315. Site location is 2741 Ocean Boulevard.
Vice Chair Rosine, for the record, Chair Elmore is recusing on this item due to a real property interest. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Staff, do you have a presentation for us?
Yes, thank you, Vice Chair Rosine. My name is David Lee from the Planning Division, and good evening to all the commissioners. This is the Dawson Residence Appeal, PA 2022-0315, and I will begin my presentation with the property location highlighted in red. This is a single-family residence in an R1 zone located in Corona Del Mar. It's located on Ocean Boulevard and also between Ocean Boulevard and Way Lane and just north of Lookout Point. The project request, which was originally approved by the zoning administrator in August, includes 3 application items. First is a coastal development permit for the remodel and addition to an existing single-family residence within the coastal zone. Second is a modification permit for retaining walls and guardrails to exceed height limits in the front yard setback. And third is a staff approval, which is to find the project in substantial conformance with the previously approved variance. I'll just go over some background really briefly. In 1961, a variance was approved by the Planning Commission to authorize the original house with deviations to the setback along Ocean Boulevard. In 1986, another variance, number 1137, was approved by the Planning Commission. This allowed deviations to the setback, height limit, and floor area for an addition. That was amended in 1988 to allow for additional structures over the height limit. In 1998, a resolution was adopted by City Council which vacated a portion of the Ocean Boulevard right-of-way and reverted the right-of-way back to the subject property. What this did was it increased the lot area of the subject property as well as the maximum allowed floor area. Overall, increased the development potential of the property, which is driving the addition request tonight. This is the project description, and the applicant is requesting first the remodel of the existing residence, an addition of 2,511 square feet. This addition includes entryway from Ocean Boulevard, access between all floors through stairway and elevator. Various uses within the addition includes office use and bathroom, etc. There's also a swimming pool on the way lane side above the garage area. I'd like to note that all additions to the principal structure are below the Ocean Boulevard curb height limitation. So I just want to run through the site plan briefly. The area in gray is the existing residence, and that is proposed to be remodeled. The area highlighted in orange is the footprint of the addition. That includes all of the accessory structures such as stairs, guardrails, terraces, etc. And what I just highlighted in orange there shows the livable floor area that is being added to the project. Just wanted to show some existing images compared to the rendering. So above is the existing residence. This is the view from Way Lane side below. And as you can see, the proposed residence, there's a remodel to the facade. They're also proposing to reduce the bulk as seen from Way Lane. This is the exhibit that demonstrates that. So if you can allow me to explain, the orange is the existing residence on the left. The gray are existing elements that are to be removed, which is a mass reduction. And that results in the residence on the right, the image on the right in green. This is a comparison from the Ocean Boulevard side. The existing is on top and the proposed on bottom. The applicant is proposing as part of the addition to remove the chimneys which are over the curb height and do obstruct some views, as well as reduce the massing on the deck on the left side there in that left red square. And that is reflected in the proposed image below without the chimneys and without the with a smaller deck area. And I wanted to highlight the clay tile roof on the right on the proposed is the area of addition. It is below the curb height and in front of the existing residence. As part of the project, the applicant is requesting a modification permit for retaining walls and guardrails above to exceed the height limit in the front yard setback. The existing is on the left. As you can see, there are existing walls, pilasters, railings. It's currently 55 feet wide approximately along Ocean Boulevard. The applicant is proposing to reduce that to 33 feet wide. They're changing the shape of the stair since there's a shorter, runway to get to the entrance. So it needs to be reconfigured. And from the bottom exhibit, I'm trying to show that there is a large slope that goes from the blue staircase down to that yellow entryway below. So in that short distance, there needs to be retaining walls that are higher to accommodate that staircase that drops down. And that is the reason for the modification permit request for these retaining walls and guardrails. So that project, as I described, was approved by the zoning administrator on August 10th. The appeal was submitted on August 24th. Staff has conducted a full analysis of the appeal letter and provided that in the staff report. But I wanted to just highlight and summarize three of the arguments submitted by the appellants. First argument is that the project is inconsistent with the Ocean Boulevard Vision Plan. Second is that the project, since it's a non-conforming structure that impairs views, is not eligible for an addition. per code. And third, the area of addition should be protected as it is a bluff, as the third argument from the appellant. And I want to just briefly address these three in my presentation. So the first is the Ocean Boulevard Vision Plan. That vision plan has gone through some study phases, such as a study session, I believe in February with the City Council, to enlarge certain sidewalks, improve landscaping, basically improve the views within the public right-of-way along Ocean Boulevard. It has not been adopted as it's in the study phase, and I wanted to note that the project, as proposed, is not in any right-of-way area and is located entirely on private property, and therefore staff believes that this vision plan is not applicable to this project. Second argument about the non-conforming structure and how it is ineligible from addition. While it's true that the structure is non-conforming, there's non-conforming portions of the structure that encroach onto the way lane setback on the bottom, and the garage also encroaches into the side setback on the bottom. These features that are non-conforming are inconsequential to the ocean views that are from Ocean Boulevard on the higher elevation of Ocean Boulevard Street. Staff believes that there are public views that are available from Ocean Boulevard as well as the sidewalk, which I'll demonstrate in the next few slides. As you can see from the existing and proposed, there is a view of the harbor, the beach, different elements. Again, this view is being not only preserved with the addition, but also enhanced with the removal of the chimneys. And as you can see, the guardrails are being removed in this area as part of that shortening of the guardrails, that guardrail width along Ocean Boulevard. Here's another image. As you can see, there's still a grand ocean view, and it would be improved with approval of this project with the removal of a portion of those guardrails, vegetation that's reduced as part of the conditions of approval, that vegetation to be maintained at the maximum height of the building structure, and also the removal of chimneys as well. Staff believes that these would all improve the view from what is already existing. I know there's a lot of bubbles here, but I do think it's important to highlight the view with the subject property in the view shed. You can still see the Balboa Peninsula, the West Jetty View Park, the harbor entrance, the ocean, and the jetty. Again, the removal of these chimneys would even further enhance this view. And when you turn to the left, there's still a grand view of the Pacific Ocean, the jetty, the harbor entrance, and the one major thing that's impairing the view would be the city tree that's located on public property and not within the private property of the applicant's residence. And finally, the argument about how the bluff needs to be preserved. The appellant points to this policy, policy 4.4.3-9 in the CLUP, basically requiring all new development to be sited in accordance with the predominant line of existing development. Staff believes that this policy does not apply to this project, and let me explain why it does not apply. The CLUP does allow private development along this portion of Ocean Boulevard. Although this bluff, this area historically was a bluff, it has been significantly altered and developed along this block, to the point that it is not located within the bluff overlay, which are maps that do implement the bluff protection policies of the CLUP. So it is not located in those maps. This is what the bluff overlay index map shows, and this is part of the certified CLUP. And I will zoom in, so don't worry. But basically the black shading shows the bluffs that are to be protected as identified in the CLUP map, and that red dot shows the area of the subject property. When you zoom in, you can see the Carnation Bluffs being protected through the bluff overlay, as well as the Ocean Boulevard bluff to the south. But this subject property located on the end of Goldenrod there, this bluff is not recognized as a bluff that's in the bluff overlay, and it is not protected by the policy. And therefore, staff believes that the proposed project does not violate that policy. Furthermore, it is developed already. When you're walking along Ocean Boulevard, you can see there are hedges, walls, driveways, stairs, all types of different things, including ornamental landscaping that is no longer a natural bluff. So over the years, this is not a natural bluff such as the other ones that are protected by the bluff overlay, and therefore, again, staff believes that is not applicable to this project. So the applicant is proposing to alter the slope. Staff believes that it's necessary to provide for the interior access between the floors through a new staircase and elevator. Again, this alteration is not visible from Ocean Boulevard because it's below the curb, and it's not visible from Way Lane because there's an existing residence that would block that alteration from view. So that red area that I've highlighted is the area that they're going to alter and construct in addition to. That concludes my presentation. Staff does recommend that the Planning Commission conduct a public hearing, find that the project is consistent with the MND that was approved with the previous variance, and exempt as well under Class 3, CEQA exemption, and adopt the resolution denying the appeal and upholding the action of the zoning administrator, which would approve a coastal development permit, modification permit, and staff approval. There's presentations from both the appellant as well as the applicant when you are ready for it as well. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, David. It's a great presentation. Commissioners, do you have any questions for staff? Okay. Then, do we have any ex parte communication? Commissioner Langford? Move this one.
Oh, starting on this side for a change. It's kind of nice. I spoke to a representative of the applicant.
I spoke with the representative for the applicant as well.
I did as well.
I did as well.
I did as well.
I also spoke for a representative of the applicant.
All right. The next step, we'll open up the public hearing. Does the applicant wish to make a presentation? How much time do you think you might need for your presentation?
It's probably just like 10 minutes.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Okay, can you guys all hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. Good evening, everybody. Thank you for being here tonight. My name is Sarah Piwan from KAA Design Group, Evans Architects. We're the project architect for this project, along with my team at KAA. So I wanted to thank the commission for hearing us today. I'd like to specifically thank the zoning administrator, Zadiba, for our previous approval and review. Thank you to senior planner David Lee for working with us, presenting our project today. We also had worked extensively with Makana Nova and Jaime Murillo during this process, so we wanted to thank them, even though we know Makana is no longer at the city. So to supplement the thorough presentation that we just heard from Senior Planner Lee, tonight we'd like to walk you through the project in relation to some project history, design process, and neighbor outreach. Our project is a remodel and addition to an existing multi-story single-family residence with attached garages and retaining walls with a new pool and spa. The Dawsons have owned a home in Corona Del Mar since 1999. Their children were all born locally at Hoag Hospital. They have immediate and extended family living in Corona Del Mar. Newport Beach is a city they love, especially Corona Del Mar and specifically China Cove. The goal of this project is to create a generational home for their family. The client has assembled a team of experienced and high-caliber entities for this project, from the architect, contractor, and to the team of engineers. KA Design is the architect and landscape architect. We're a Southern California-based 35-year-old architecture firm specializing in single-family residential. OAC is the client representative. They're a full-service construction management and professional owners representation company. Dugali Oberfeld is the general contractor, and they're a luxury home builder with extensive Orange County and Corona Del Mar experience. Since they are local, they know the area well, they have experience on similar complex lots, and are respectful to the neighbors. The house was originally built in 1962. As in a typical home, they've gone through several remodels and additions since that time. Here are some street views which show you the existing conditions of the house, which are similar to what we saw earlier in Planner Lee's presentation. In this slide, we're looking down into China Cove from the Fernleaf Ramp area. In studying these images, the whole area and bluff has been highly developed since the house was originally built in 1962. We've highlighted it there in orange. Our site is not the only one in this area that has been built up since then and is arguably less developed than many others. In response to appeals that the bluff should be maintained or restored to imagery from 1948 or historical photographs, the only way to achieve that would to be demolish all of these private homes on the bluff and replant it, which is not necessarily realistic. To walk you through some of the project history, in 2014, the Dawsons purchased the 2741 Ocean Boulevard property and hired an architect to design and build a new family home. In 2017, the Planning Commission approved the new construction project with variances. Later in 2017, the Dawsons decided to pursue an addition and remodel project rather than the full new construction because of their family relocation due to Mr. Dawson's job. They engaged a new architect for the remodel scope. In 2019, they engaged KAA Design and Evans Architects for the remodel and addition of the project. Since 2019, we've been collaborating with the clients in the city on multiple versions of the plan, ultimately resulting in the project we are reviewing with you today. During our design process, we identified goals with the city on what we wanted to achieve along with the client. We wanted to work with the city staff along the whole way to ensure code compliance on this unique lot. We wanted to comply with all the planning and building codes. We worked with the planning department extensively to agree on the code regulations we are designing to. Since the beginning, our client has been intentional about complying with the rules and keeping it as simple as possible. We acknowledge we are working with an irregular lot and a steep slope. We wanted to improve the views for the public and for the site. We wanted to maintain existing structure as much as possible. Want to minimize bluff impact as much as possible, and enhance the architecture of the site and the neighborhood. And we wanted to create a family home. To help understand the parameters of this project and our intention of compliance, we'd like to highlight a couple key facts comparing the 2017 project that was approved by the Planning Commission and our current design. The first is the size of the project. In 2017, the approved project was 10,048 square feet. That was almost the maximum allowable square footage for the lot. With our current design, we're at 8,292 square feet. This is a 17.5% reduction from the 2017 approved design. The next parameter we'd like to highlight is the grading excavation number. The 2017 approved project was excavating 2,820 cubic yards of dirt. Our current design is only excavating 1,409 cubic yards, which is a 51% reduction. In these diagrams, we're highlighting the area of bluff to remain. Our current design is on the right in green, and the 2017 approved design is on the left in red. Here you can see the difference. We're maintaining about 3,051 square feet of the bluff, which is almost 30% of the total square footage of our lot. It's rare to have this percentage of open landscape on a property in the Corona Del Mar Village. Given the required setbacks, a new home on this property would require building closer to Ocean Boulevard and developing more of the bluff than what exists, which is evident in the 2017 approved diagram. Here we'd like to highlight the neighbor outreach we've done for the project. The Dawsons have reached out to neighbors since 2016 in the first version of the project. Outreach has included hosting meetings at their homes, letters, emails, phone calls, and personal discussions. For this project, our neighbor outreach started in the summer of 2022. We are very pleased to have received support from so many residents, including about 10 of the properties that are in China Cove. The commissioners should have received those support letters over the past few days. Prior to the zoning administrator hearing, we proactively reached out to the neighbors to make them aware of the project. On August 10th, the zoning administrator approved our project. On August 10th, as well, after the zoning administrator hearing, we reached out to the one China Cove neighbor that commented during the hearing. No appeal was filed by this neighbor, and they now support the project. August 24th, the appeal was filed. Since we had done extensive outreach with our immediate neighbors, we were surprised when we got the appeal from Mr. Mosher and others from the Back Bay. September 7th and 19th, Mrs. Dawson reached out to the appellants to address their concerns and asked them to meet with the team to address concerns in person. On September 28th, we were able to meet in person with 4 of the 6 appellants to review concerns and comments. We were able to illustrate improved views to them, look at plans, renderings, and walk the site. Overall, it was a very positive meeting. On October 10th, the project team followed up with email to the appellants, and then on October 25th and November 1st, Mrs. Dawson followed up via email to appellants to request for them to reconsider their appeal. The bluff overlay. So as you also saw in the previous presentation, our project is not in the bluff overlay zone. Here we are referencing 2 of the city-provided resources and have highlighted our property. These documents were reviewed and approved by the city and the Coastal Commission. Also included is an excerpt from the February 9th, 2017 approval meeting minutes, where it stated that staff does not apply a predominant line of existing development to this property because it does not fall within the coastal bluff overlay designated in the zoning code. Here we have shown some side-by-side views of the current design and existing views from Ocean Boulevard. Some are ones you just saw, but we wanted to also point out a few things in them. In these views, you can see aspects we have worked hard to achieve in the design process and in feedback from our meeting with the appellants. To orient yourselves, since we have an irregular shaped lot, it is good to note that the tall palms on the left of the views are just past our property line and are located on the adjacent city property. Regarding the views, we are improving the views for the public with our design and not impeding any of them with our work. All of our new addition is below curb height, which does not decrease any views out to the ocean. We have reduced mass at the terraces, which creates more attractive architecture to look at and opens up views past the house and through the now open guardrails rather than solid walls. The roof of the wing of our study is shown in a light Tuscan-inspired clay tile roof. We revised the color of this roof to be a more natural color to blend more with the adjacent landscaping. This color revision was based on feedback from the appellants at our meeting, where they expressed that a brighter, more redder roof, like we previously showed, would stick out more in the landscape and impact a view. In the foreground of the existing Ocean Boulevard view is a portion of the existing railing and pilaster. As you see in the left on the proposed rendering, we have reduced the extent of that rail along Ocean Boulevard. By doing this, we have reduced the amount of elements that are projecting above curb height. In the second view comparison, we have basically all the same impacts that we previously described. Specifically to this view, you can see we've opened the terraces at level 4 and 5 on the side of the house you can see right there, and you can now see through to the beach of China Cove. We have eliminated the 3 overheight existing chimneys, so now we only have 1 new full height chimney and it's under curb height. In this view, the existing landscaping will be improved during the process with agreed upon parameters on height that will also improve public views. We acknowledge the intent of the Ocean Boulevard Vision Plan, though it is not fully approved or adopted at this time. We understand the intent is to improve landscaping, beautify, and improve public views on public property. If the City Council or Planning Commission wants to take a portion of the Dawson's private property or any of their neighbors' private property under eminent domain to implement the Ocean Boulevard Vision Plan in the future, we can have the discussion at that time. But as for now, we are not aware of anyone at the city entertaining the idea of taking private property from the residents. In this image, you can see the improved view now because of the chimney reduction and the planting improvements. In this next image, the elimination of the rail clearly improves views. And you can see here from a little further back that the new construction has no negative impact to the views. In the next 2 slides, we've included some additional views and renderings that we utilized during our neighbor outreach. This first slide shows the existing site conditions on the property, just from some various viewpoints. This second slide shows our current design. These design renderings show you the style and detail of our proposed design. It is clear that it will improve the street and the neighborhood by elevating the design and quality of the architecture and the landscape on the property. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you very much. Commissioners, does anyone have any questions for the applicant? Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, then the appellant wished to make a presentation? And if we could try to keep it to 10 minutes.
Can you put up that presentation?
Thank you.
Excuse me. My name is Daniel Herman. I live at 503 Poinsettia Avenue. And my interest in this project is I was a volunteer for the community, Corona Del Mar Residents Association, preparing the vision plan that's been prepared to date. And I believe this project is in conflict with that plan, whether it's been adopted yet by the city or not. My company has just been hired by the city to formalize that plan, going through a formalized public participation process.
Sir, could you state your name for the record, or maybe I missed that?
Daniel Herman.
Thank you.
I'll mention also, in my profession as a landscape architect, I've worked worldwide on waterfront parks, and in the city of Newport Beach, I've worked on very important public realm projects for the city, including, well, city and county, including Upper Newport Bay Regional Park, Marina Park, Oasis Senior Center, and the new library. So I have a vested interest in the public realm in the city. You've read the appeal, you've heard 2 excellent presentations. We're going to talk today about 5 things. The proposal is not consistent with that plan. That the regulations call for limited renovation, and we think of this as a major renovation. We believe that the predominant line of development does apply to this project, and it is not excluded in the coastal plan. We also believe that the project may be illegal as the original vacation of the Ocean Boulevard right-of-way was never approved by the Coastal Commission, and that according to the municipal code, the project impairs views. You've been shown images that show that it doesn't block views, but there's a considerable difference between impairing and blocking. So the Ocean Boulevard Vision Plan, I started working on with Ron Yo, another resident of Corona Del Mar, in 2020. We worked with the Residents Association, City Parks, and Leisure Services, and then finally Public Works on that plan. We had many community outreach meetings, and as I said, the city is about to enter into a contract with my company to formalize that plan. The work to date is focused on improving the lookout points and the public realm sidewalks connecting those lookout points, and we believe this project is inconsistent with the goals of that plan. What I'd like to do is have Jim Mosier, who you're all familiar with, talk a little bit about the very specific details of how this plan is inconsistent, and then we'll come back and I'll just share with you some other imagery.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair Rosine. Did I understand we have only 10 minutes?
Within reason, yes.
Thank you. I think this will take a little longer than that. So if you will indulge us, since you have nothing else on your agenda tonight. As the staff and the applicant have pointed out, the vision plan is not yet law, but our local coastal program is. And to be clear, what we're appealing tonight is a coastal development permit, which is something that the 2017 plan you heard about never had. To those who believe that abiding with the local coastal program is not only our civic duty, but key to preserving resources in our coastal zone, our objections to this come down to two main points. One is that coastal plan was revised in 2019 as to what is allowed to non-conforming structures. Whether the staff relayed that to the Dawsons or not, I do not know. But now a non-conforming structure, for whatever reason, that impairs public coastal views is no longer eligible for any addition. That is our current revised implementation plan. So for that reason alone, we don't think that the expansion is allowed. They have to stay within the current footprint. They can remodel, whatever, but within that footprint. Second, even if the LCP continued to allow expansion of non-conforming structures, we believe that for the structure at 2741 Ocean, the slope between it and Ocean Boulevard is not available for development. There are two reasons for thinking that. First, as Dan just mentioned, when this property was abandoned by the city in 1998, the city was required to have a coastal development for that action. This is well established. Other cities do that. Newport Beach did not. So that action, the abandonment of the slope, has never been formally consented to through the CDP process. The state has not agreed to it. And as it happened in other properties, including on the peninsula where the city abandoned property without a coastal development permit, the Coastal Commission does not allow permits to be issued on that property until the city gets a CDP, which it's unlikely to get for this property. So for that reason, we think that as the Coastal Commission does not issue permits there, you, the Planning Commission, bound by the same law, should not be issuing permits here until that issue is resolved. And the second, contrary to what the staff said, and I believe the Coastal Commission staff has a different opinion about what our implementation plan means than our city staff does, whoever owns the slope, whether it was the city or a private owner, the LCP prohibits private development on it. We've heard much that this is not in the bluff overlay district. That is true, but a CDP has to be consistent both with the implementation plan, where that implementation is, also with the coastal land use plan, which is like the general plan for the coast. And the intent of the coastal land use plan is clearly articulated in the policy 4.4.3-8, which you will find on handwritten page 37 of your agenda packet. If you look near the bottom of page 37, the policy is written out there, and I would like to help you read it. The policy begins, prohibit development on bluff faces. That is the overall policy that we have to implement in Newport Beach. We do not allow development on any bluff face in the entire city in the coastal zone, with two exceptions. And if you continue reading, you'll find the first exception is for private development on the coastal bluff faces along Ocean Boulevard, Carnation, and Pacific Drive in Corona del Mar. So this location is one of only 3 where the bluff faces can be developed. But it says the development is only allowed if it's determined to be consistent with the predominant line of existing development. And note that says a line of development, and it says existing development. So when this policy was enacted, the development is allowed on those 3 streets, on those bluff faces, if it's within the existing line of development. The second exception is public improvements are allowed on bluff faces anywhere in Newport Beach. But both the private and the public improvements have to be, as it says at the end, only if there is no feasible alternative and the design was constructed to minimize alteration of the bluff face. But that doesn't mean that you can build on a bluff face even there outside the line of predominant development just because you want to. You can only develop within that and only within it if that's the only feasible opportunity you have. And on this property, on this particular property that the Dawsons own, the only part that is not yet developed completely within the predominant line of development is a little corner that you saw in the northwest above where they want to put a pool and some outside area. So, I was intending to read this, but didn't. Yes, I think that's most of what I wanted to say. So the hope that the slope that we hope to preserve, which is the one between the building and Ocean Boulevard, Dan is going to show in the slides here, is clearly outside the existing predominant line of development. And because of that policy, that you can only build within it, we believe development there is not permitted. May not be what the Dawsons want to hear, may not be what they heard from the city staff. We believe that's what the LCP says. And finally, the LCP is intended to protect not just bluffs, but also coastal views. And we've heard much about roofs and vegetation being kept below the curb height. I would submit that staying below the curb height is an absolute limit that was placed in the implementation plan because anything above the curb is absolutely going to impair views. But that does not mean that something below the curb height could not impair views also. I believe we heard the city staff tell you that from Ocean Boulevard you could not see the addition because it's below the curb height. I would submit to you, we just saw a whole lot of slides in which you could clearly see the addition from Ocean Boulevard, even though it's below the curb height. Now, Dan will continue. Thank you.
All right. Well, the next point we would like to make is that the section only, excuse me, allows limited renovations on the subject property. And we believe the commission hasn't seen fully all of the impacts of this project. This diagram shows you cut and fill, And there are sections that we have grading with cuts up to 30 feet with walls and fills up to 10 and 20 feet. My particular concern is a plan that wasn't included in the package that shows you caissons that are being proposed along Ocean Boulevard. I believe there are 15 of them, and those caissons will likely preclude the closing of that sidewalk, and some alternative needs to be made. And we would ask the commission to look at that more further, and if you do approve the project, look at the conditions related to improving that public access. As we've talked about, we think the predominant line of development does apply, and it's really important. But let's step back and look at the history of this project, because it's really kind of unusual. 2741 actually fronts Goldenrod Avenue right-of-way. And when it was originally approved as a lot in 1959, and then in the development plans, the city allowed the building to be built on the right-of-way. So it's the only house in that block that isn't along the Ocean Boulevard right-of-way. You can see in this, the two orange lines indicate that, and that was done in the original platting of Corona Del Mar Village. When we look at the plan, this was part of the original submittal, and it shows you the variances. At that time, the project was given a variance to not follow the front yard setback, and it's built right on the right-of-way of Goldenrod. And that was done to put it on a flatter portion of the site. And now we're carrying those variances forward and applying it to this new project. This is the original home as constructed in 1962. You can see this is when stilt construction became popular in Los Angeles, and the orange line again identifies the Goldenrod right-of-way. You can see the bluff is preserved in its natural state. When we come to today, this home is sited on the lot in an unusual way. It's not parallel to the street, and it's not parallel because of that Goldenrod right-of-way. So you can see it's kind of skewed to the left. It's set back 38 feet. The next three homes going north are set back 38 feet, but not from Goldenrod, but from the Ocean Boulevard right-of-way, and then it increases to 44 and 94 feet. So we believe this establishes the prominent line of development for homes in this area, and that this project violates that. Now, if we take a step further and look at all...
Mr. Herman, can you start to wrap that up for us, please?
All right, I'll go quicker. If we want to expand from those 6 homes and look at all of the homes on Ocean Boulevard, all of them are set back, and this is the only project that would be constructing that close to Ocean Boulevard. You've seen this diagram before. You haven't seen it with the orange line showing the predominant line of development with the existing home and the proposed home. Looking at it in section, again, the green is existing, the tan is proposed. And more important, when we think of it as an urban design element, we have this green space that starts at the China Cove stairs at the top left of the slide and then continues all the way to Lookout Point. And this project would violate that green space, that landscape area, which we think is also part of the scenic quality of Ocean Boulevard. We don't see how this is a positive attribute of the project. This home interferes with that space and is not positive.
Okay, Mr. Herman, you're
All right.
well over your time limit. Could we
Yes.
make just some
I'll just show
final
you
comments,
2
please?
things real quick. This exhibit shows you in green the original parcel and in gray the vacated right-of-way, which Jim told you has not been approved by the Coastal Commission. These are the options for the Coastal Commission. And then we ask you to uphold our appeal and preserve the Ocean Boulevard green space. So, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, commissioners, does anyone have any questions for the appellant?
Could you go back to, I think it was slide 13? You were mentioning the green space. I may be misreading as I'm looking at it, but just judging from the city trees, the palm trees in the foreground, isn't all that green space on the city property? Or it looks like it's blocking a view of the applicant's property. Am I misreading that?
The city property line starts at the edge of the house closest to us that we see, and then extends to Ocean Boulevard, and that is in the foreground.
Are you seeing that the green area in front of the palm tree is going to be impacted by this development, or?
No, I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is that the construction within 10 feet of the sidewalk of Ocean Boulevard will block this green space.
But not from the visibility of it, or block it? When you say block, what do you mean?
Well, you have along all of Ocean Boulevard, you have a continually ornamental landscape, which is part of the character of Ocean Boulevard. This would be the only house that develops within that area. Every place else, because of the fact that it's easement of Ocean Boulevard, development is precluded and designed in an ornamental landscape, but that's part of the character of Ocean Boulevard, and this interferes with that.
If you could go back, I think it was 2 more slides showing the orange line. One more. I guess one more. This one.
Yes.
So when I'm looking at, I don't understand, it sounds like prominent line of development is probably a term of art that I'm not totally familiar with. But when I'm looking up Ocean Boulevard and looking at the setbacks, at least oriented against Ocean Boulevard, it seems like the proposed development follows a similar setback to Ocean Boulevard rather than Goldenrod. Or am again, as I look up to...
I'm sorry, I failed to make my point clearly. Actually, it doesn't.
Because this is the alignment. It says predominant line of development,
Right.
but that's along the orientation of Goldenrod. I'm sorry, right?
Historical orientation of Goldenrod.
Let's go back.
Not the orientation of Ocean Boulevard.
Right.
Correct.
So all 6 homes, 5 of them followed Ocean Boulevard, and this home, because of the original planning, actually fronted Goldenrod.
So, again, I'm not familiar with the term of art, but when it's saying prominent line of development, is it referring to the development of the house originally, or is it the development of the area, which it seems like all their neighbors are on a orientation that fits the proposed development?
Maybe this would be a good question for staff when we get to that point.
Yeah, that term of art, but I just...
All right. Well, in our view, this home with its proposed construction is different than all the other homes because it constructs the expansion into that predominant line of development area.
Based on the Goldenrod alignment.
Well, based on the line of all the existing homes. The right-of-way is kind of non-consequential anymore because the Goldenrod alignment and the Ocean Boulevard right-of-way was granted to the city or to the applicant 20 years ago or 15 years ago.
You know, I understand. I'm just looking at the neighbors' houses. It looks like they're set back from Ocean.
Correct.
Not from Goldenrod. And that setback seems like, I guess, to my ear, that is what I would think of as the prominent line of development. Again, not knowing exactly what it does mean.
Right. That's exactly our point. That's the line that's been established, and this home should not violate that line.
But isn't this home currently off that line?
Well, it's set back the same distance, 38 feet.
From Goldenrod, though?
From the back of the sidewalk.
Okay.
That's our common dimension. The proposed addition sets the home 10 feet off the back of the sidewalk. Significant difference. Of the 41 homes on Ocean Boulevard, it's the only one that would be that close.
I guess I'm just looking at the next door neighbor, and it doesn't look like it looks like it's quite a bit closer than the house north of it.
Well, the air photo is a bit deceiving. That's a covering over the patio.
Gotcha.
And so if you measure the front wall, then you'd be at that 38 feet.
Thanks.
Commissioners, any additional comments for the appellant? Okay. Then, is there anyone else in the audience that would like to comment on this item? State your name, and let's try to keep it to 3 minutes, please.
Good evening. My name is Linda Rasner. I preside at 2500 Ocean Boulevard. And while I am a couple blocks down the street, anything that happens on Ocean Boulevard concerns me. And I don't like to see them trying to get away with putting something outside the line of existing development or predominant line that they can build within. And the Planning Commission in the past has approved and approved and approved a lot of variances. And I don't think that having done that in the past, you should be able to keep doing that in the future. And we just want to preserve as much of the bluff as we can. That's all.
Thank you. Any other speakers?
Hi, I'm Ron Yo. Just to clarify, she's actually from the Coronamar Residents Association representing this area. And it's a very important part of our community. And I'm the chairman of the Ocean Bluff Walk. And as you all know, it's on its way. We started that program about 3 years ago, and takes a little bit of time to go through the process, but it's soon to be up and running, but we know what the goals are, even though we haven't really finalized it. We want to get all the input from the various community members on that. But you've heard everything being said by all three sides, and we trust you to make the right decision. Thank you.
Thank you. Does the applicant want to respond to any of the appellant's comments?
I think we have a few more public comments.
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you.
I appreciate this. My name is Walt Howell, and I've been here not quite as long as Nancy Gardner. We have a real discussion on that, but she was born here, so that beat me. But this is an extremely sensitive area with China Cove, the lookout point, and all of this. The first thing I'm concerned about has to do with the fact that there is an abandonment by the city, and you people were not on the Planning Commission at that time, but there was an abandonment of property, public property, that never went through the Coastal Commission, and from the looks of it, is not the way it was to do in order to preserve the bluff area. I think we ought to go back, get that corrected, and or see what they are and take it to the Coastal Commission to see if they're going to approve this abandonment. And I don't think they will, but maybe they will. But I think that's the first thing. The applicant has said that they're building this land on private property. They're building all of their land in their increase on the very property that was abandoned by the city and unfortunately was not completed and was not done as it should have been done. The other thing is, I'm very concerned about the people in this area. They don't have knowledge, really. You can go out and talk to individual people and say, oh, we want to expand our home. But do they really know what's going to happen to the streets? They really know what's going to happen to Lookout Point? I mean, this should have come to this commission with a full hearing and everybody being able to come here and talk to you as we do tonight. The next thing, I'm not counting, the next thing that we have to be concerned about is that the existing houses do comply with the prevailing line, the goldenrod line. This house, if it's permitted, will go all the way up until 10 feet. And in fact, the space right now, and if you walk along Ocean Boulevard, the space right now gets narrow right there, the sidewalk space. We have lots of people walking in the streets, which is a safety area. I'm glad to see people walking, but that is a big concern. Please do not either go back, have a full hearing, or go back and see that we can go to the Coastal Commission and get the original property, if it's going to be abandoned, approved by the Coastal Commission. If it's not, then let's do this and not have these people, the Dawsons, be able to build and on property that has questions to begin with at this point. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Are there any other speakers on this item? Okay, now seeing none. Does the applicant wish to respond to any of the appellant's comments?
So just a quick response. Regarding the front setback versus predominant line of development, we've abided by the zoning codes that we've worked with the planning staff to come up with, and we're abiding with the front setback for our site, which is 10 feet, not an interpreted historical goldenrod line or another predominant line, since it's not applicable to our site. The other thing we'd like to ask regarding the city vacating the property in 1998 or 9, we'd like to see if the city attorney could address that, or that's kind of something outside of this exact discussion to the Planning Commission tonight. So maybe they could help us provide some clarity on that appellant issue.
Yeah, I'm sure staff will have something to say. That, thank you.
Thank you.
Well, we have her up there. We can just get affirmation that they've read and agreed to the
Oh.
conditions.
Yeah, have
Yes.
you reviewed the conditions of approval and agree with them?
Yes,
Okay, thank you.
thank you.
Okay, I guess we have one more chance for the appellant to make any final statement.
Thank you, Vice Chair Racine. I would like to emphasize again that the policy which we believe applies, and I believe the Coastal Commission applies to all the bluffs in Newport Beach, and for these particular bluffs allows development, but only to the predominant line. It's the line of existing development. It's the line formed by where the homes are now. And this home is one on that line. Asking to build beyond that line is creating a new line. It's not staying within what is currently the predominant and only line. The reason I think the word predominant is in there is because there are areas where the houses are stepped, and one is a little closer to the curb, one a little bit further back, and predominant line is some average that gives the people who are back a little advantage to move out and match their neighbors. Here there is no neighbor to match. So this house, we believe, is on the line. It's the only line that's ever been there. And then the final comment I would make is, again, it's a coastal development permit. That is what we're appealing. We believe it has to comply with the local coastal program. The local coastal program was certified by the Coastal Commission. They are the ultimate arbiters of what that plan means. They prefer for issues of this kind to be worked out locally. They don't really like to see appeals to them. If you think that there's any merit to what we're saying and you want further public discussion of this, someone will have to ask a council member to review that. That opportunity exists. That's one of the options. Oddly, the staff did not tell you what options you had in the staff report. I thought they would tell you what options you had in their presentation. They did not. Dan was trying to show you a slide with those options that you have. You can approve a project, you can deny it, you can modify it, you could send it back to the zoning administrator, many different things. But if anyone here is unhappy with your decision tonight, they have a right to appeal this directly to the Coastal Commission, which I don't think the Dawsons want to happen. Probably you don't want to happen. So if there's further discussion needed, I guess you can do whatever you want. We are not going to appeal it to the City Council, so somebody will have to do that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mosier. Staff, do you have any comments for the record?
I'll go ahead and just take the first item that was mentioned with respect to the abandonment. We do stand by the abandonment that occurred in 1998. Even assuming there was an issue in terms of the issuance of a CDP, the statute of limitations in order to challenge that is 90 days as of 1998. There is good authority for that. That was decided actually in 2022, Coastal Act Protectors versus the City of LA. And so we do stand by the appropriateness of the abandonment and think that any issuance of challenging it has already expired. Thanks.
Chairman Rosine and Commissioners, you've heard a little bit about trying to address this locally. That's what this process is for, and I think we're getting toward that today here. You know, Mr. Mosier did indicate the options that the Commission does have accurately. So you can approve this, you can deny this, you can send it back to the zoning administrator, you can modify this. One thing you can't do is kick it to the City Council. You've got a responsibility to do here. Obviously, the decision can be appealed to Coastal Commission. There is a fee for that. This also, because of that, can also be appealed to the Coastal Commission. This is within the appeal jurisdiction area. Couple of things. You heard a lot about predominant line of development, and that is really an interesting topic. You know, there is a definition of what the predominant line of development is, and I could read it to you if you really want to, but the line that was indicated in the appellant's presentation is really not the predominant line of development. That is not a line that has been established by the city in any kind of regulatory document. In fact, we've done the exact opposite for this segment of the bluff. And the reason is that this existing segment of bluffs has already been completely altered. And so we didn't apply a bluff overlay. It was done by design when we did the coastal implementation plan in 2017. And it was certified by the Coastal Commission, and it doesn't have a bluff overlay here, meaning it doesn't have the same protections as other bluffs in the community that do have established lines. Now, you saw the index map of those areas that have it, and when you go to the map for that area, you see very specific lines, very specific elevations that are on the map that say, hey, you can do this here, and you can have a house here, and you can have accessory structures there, or in some cases you can't have anything because it's more of an area to be preserved. This particular bluff segment was left out purposefully because of the extensive development pattern that's here that goes from the top to the bottom. This one property is really the one outlier from that it doesn't actually go from top to bottom because of that vacated area. You know, the existing development is in the original parcel. We see that. The vacation occurred in 1998, and now finally the property owner is coming forward to develop it and take advantage of the property rights that the laws have provided, the regulations have provided, this entire stretch of homes. And again, you know, the predominant line of development policy really doesn't apply here. You know, when we went and got it certified, the actual regulations stipulate a 10-foot front yard setback from the existing property line along Ocean Boulevard. We can show you that map, which then sets back any new construction at least 10 feet. And so that is the regulations that were certified by the Coastal Commission without an overly protective overlay here for bluff preservation. You know, I found the argument that the appellants put forward for, you know, protecting the views of this area where they're constructing and then putting the house there somehow violates those policies. I'm going to read you a policy out of the Coastal Land Use Plan, policy 441-3, which says to site and design new development to minimize alterations to significant landforms, including bluffs, cliffs, and canyons. And that was certified by the Coastal Commission. This is the city's policy that we put forward. We're making the case that this is really not a significant landform. This is not a unique rock outcropping. You can't see this landform. It's a slope that's vegetated between the right-of-way and the house. You can't see it from the bay. You can't see it from Lookout Point due to the vegetation that's there. You know, when the council vacated this piece of property, there was anticipated development in this area in 1998. consistent with the zoning codes, consistent with the regulations that would be put into place. And the applicant is taking advantage of that and has designed a thoughtful project that minimizes alteration. They're not taking the entire area of this slope and building upon it. The area they are altering is down below the house to obviously provide that staircase and provide an elevator through the entire building. And I think that's a thoughtful design to create a more usable house. Right now, the house is a little bit a challenge given its age and the additions that were done. I think we're indicating that the property is consistent with that policy because this is not the landform that is scenic and needs to be protected and preserved. And that is also within the, how we adopted the coastal land use plan without that overlay on this property. So when you look at the views, I think you've seen the view simulations. The policy about views is to protect and where feasible enhance those views. And I think the applicant has done that by pulling back some elements of the house, and you saw that in those imagery. So we feel it is consistent with that policy. The predominant line of development, it's an interesting concept, but it's really not applicable on this particular lot, and so we don't feel that it's applicable here. The vacation, you've heard Mr. Summerhill indicate how we look at that. That vacation was done in 1998. It's been affected. It is part of this area that they're wanting to construct upon is now part of that property, and they're just simply taking advantage of the rights and abilities through the processes that the LCP and the city provides through its regulations. We've extensively examined this. We feel it is consistent. Our recommendation is to go ahead and approve this project consistent with the conditions that you have. I think I've addressed all the points that wanted to. Oh, there was one other comment. There was a comment that we're going to affect public access because we're going to need to put a big drilling rig and put caissons in there. Yes, there will be some disruptions to reconstruct and, not reconstruct, but to remodel this house and to do the additions. Yes, there will be some caissons in the design. So there will be some minor construction delays. We do have condition number 22 that requires a construction management plan so that we redirect so that we don't significantly impact public access. Again, that's a temporary issue that will come and go with the construction, and when we're all said and done, the sidewalk will be there, the views will be enhanced, and it's a very, very limited impact, and we don't find that to be inconsistent with any provisions of the local coastal program or zoning. So with that, I think I'll wrap up. Fairly long discussion there. There was also some discussion about policies that speak to limiting renovations of existing nonconforming structures. One thing I want to point out is that when you go forward with a building and you receive a variance or a modification permit or some sort of relief through the zoning code, you're actually not nonconforming. Now, you may have a building that was allowed to be within a setback or allowed to be taller than it would otherwise be through that variance or allowed to be larger than the code would do. But the process of going through that process and then to authorize it, it's allowing something consistent with the zoning code. So you're actually not nonconforming. To be nonconforming is when you've got a legally established building that might be at 10 feet, and then later you come back and say, well, no, the setback needs to be 20 feet now. And so now the building, because of the adoption of an ordinance or an annexation, creates a nonconformity. I mean, the standards have changed. In this particular case, we haven't changed those standards. So it really is not a nonconforming structure. So it isn't limited to that policy where there's limited renovations. Now, this is a remodeled building, and it is a limited renovation. We've looked at this very carefully to make sure that the alterations are less than 50% of the building. We've looked at this from the eye of is it constructible in that fashion? The answer is we believe that it is. We've consulted with our building division, and so it's really less than 50%. But again, it isn't limited by that policy to have more limited renovations, and even if it were, we do also believe that 50% of renovation it would be still consistent with that policy if it were applicable. The addition that's being proposed is fully consistent with the LCP. There is no deviations requested there, but for just the guardrails in the front yard setback. And again, now we're making those smaller. They're necessary to provide that access for safety. They don't block any views. So I think with that, I'm going to wrap up my presentation here. I've gone on for a bit. And maybe I took a little liberty here. It's only my second to last meeting for the Planning Commission. But I wanted to kind of make sure, we looked at this and vetted it very, very thoroughly. We understand that this is likely to be appealed to the Coastal Commission, and we stand by this recommendation. We feel that it will stand the test of the Coastal Commission, given these parameters and the improvements that the applicant is making to this property. So with that, we recommend approval. And if there's any questions, feel free to ask.
Thank you, Jim, for that very detailed explanation. We appreciate it, and thank you, Yolanda. With that, we'll close the public hearing and bring it back to the commission. Would anyone like to entertain a motion or have any comments? Any of the commissioners?
I'll say something quick. I appreciate the appellants for protecting and acting on their protection of CDM. It's a sensitive and special place that we all love as Newport Beach residents. So I'm glad that we're having a full Planning Commission hearing. So I think that outcome at least is good. I'm satisfied by the staff's recommendation. I would also have been annoyed if I was the owner and been paying taxes on this new land for 25 years to only then realize, like, oh, this land that was vacated, you really couldn't develop. We just wanted you to, pay for all of the pruning of trees and whatnot. So it seems right to me that it gets developed in the way that abides by code and all of that. And I'm glad that Deputy Director Campbell has been here long enough to have been there in 1998, probably there and knows what happened. And it seems just about.
Almost.
And
Almost. I've been with the city since the year 2000, so the vacation was before my time, so I don't have any carnal knowledge about that particular one. So.
I'm just trying to date you. I think it's fun. So I'm inclined to go with the staff's recommendation after hearing both sides.
Any other commissioners? Is that a motion, by the way? Okay, go ahead.
I'm just going to, ready. I'll be quick. I just sort of echo my fellow commissioners' sentiments. I agree with that. When I think both sides, I definitely respect the appellants, what they, went together. I went through to kind of put all that and put their thoughts in together, and also will commend the staff in terms of the rebuttal to their arguments. I thought they were very thorough to defend their findings. So I'm inclined to vote yes on this.
Yeah, Commissioner Bartow.
I'm going to echo really what was already said, but I respect the appellate's thoroughness and their argumentation and putting together, I think, some interesting ways of looking at it. And I also appreciate the thoroughness of the analysis from the staff. And I guess I'm kind of thinking the same way as the others as far as the way it was addressed. Thanks.
Did we have any other commissioner comments, or would like to entertain a motion?
I was just gonna give some comments. Appreciate the process very much. Thank you all for coming out and being very thorough and going through it. And appreciate the volunteers on the vision plan and what's going to get there. I don't think we can make findings on a plan that's not here. We also, I'm not looking to adjudicate, decisions made by the Planning Commission 20 plus years ago. So I can't get there on those. Also, I agree with staff on the line of development, and I think I would disagree on that line of development, even if it was applicable. Based on Ocean Boulevard, I think that's more where the line of development would go for where I am, so that's why I'm getting to where I am. Besides that, I'd make a motion to approve or to deny the
Approved staff's recommendation?
Yes, it's essentially to uphold the zoning administrator's
Uphold
decision.
staff's recommendation. Thank you.
Yeah, to uphold staff's recommendation. Thank you.
I'll second that.
All right. Then we have a motion and a second. Let's call for a vote.
The motion carries unanimously.
Okay, thank you, everyone. Moving on to the next item. Do we have any motions for reconsideration? Bless you. Okay, seeing none. Report from the Community Development Director.
Certainly, I'll go ahead and make that report. So we've got 2 more meetings before the end of the year. December 7th. Not having a second meeting in November because it is the Thanksgiving holiday, so that's canceled. But on December 7th, we have a couple of items, and you'll see them in your packet. I want to make one update to that. Item number 1 on that list, the appeal of the staff approval for the Champions Club. This is the item that you heard at your prior meeting that was continued. That appeal has been withdrawn by the appellant, so there apparently there is been some agreement between the parties, Champions, Palisades Tennis Club, and the Hyatt. And parking is open and available to the Palisades Club, and it seems as if things are moving forward. So that appeal has been withdrawn, so that will not be on your agenda on December 7th. You'll also notice the start time there, 5 p.m. I did poll and see if that would be okay. Everyone agreed. Still would like to do that if we can. We do have a few items there, but you do see 2 public hearings from some housing projects up in the airport area. We have the appeal for the Pine Knot Hotel, and then we have Sage Hill Middle School. So we still have a packed agenda. We'd like to still start at 5 o'clock that night. So then the last meeting of the year would be December 21st. We do have several cases, 3 of them specifically, coming forward at that meeting. I know it's close to the holidays. We still hope to have that meeting. If there's any excused absences, would love to hear about that tonight. But otherwise, we do have a plan for that meeting. And so that concludes my report. I won't be at the meeting of December 21st, though, but I will be at the meeting of December 7th.
All right. Thank you, Jim, for that report. Do we have any requests for excused absences? We'll all be here on the 7th at 5 o'clock. And go ahead.
No, I'm fine. We could make a motion to make Jim stay through the 21st of December. But, yeah.
Second.
Wait a minute.
11. All right, well then, without any
Chair?
additional excused absences, then we are adjourned.
And if we, I believe you have one.
Oh, I was just going to indicate, and I think one last item for the agenda. Mr. Murillo, sitting here next to me, will be the acting deputy director coming forward after my departure. So he will be coming to your meetings more regularly, every meeting actually. So you're going to be in very good hands with Mr. Murillo. He's been with the city for 20 years. So we've got a lot of good knowledge here, and he'll be able to help serve the commission well.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Big shoes to fill.
Well, I have size 12 and he has size 13, so I think it's going to be just fine. Anyway, thank you very much.
Awesome. Look forward to that. Then we are adjourned.
And if we could just announce the adjournment to the 7th of December at 5 p.m. Thank you.
Agreed.